progress daily, no matter how hard life gets. Hit subscribe, stay consistent, and watch your life transform without distraction or delays. Chapter 1. Rediscover your why. Fuel motivation through core purpose. When the weight of the world sits heavy on the chest and every step feels like pushing through molasses, the easiest option looks like walking away. Giving up sells a quiet promise. Rest, relief, escape. That promise is seductive because it answers pain with immediate change. The harder, braver answer is to keep going with a clearer aim, to reconnect with the reason that first sparked effort. Rediscovering your why is not sentimental. It is a tactical reset. It clears the fog so action becomes purposeful. And purpose is the thos that turns small, painful steps into movement that matters. Begin by acknowledging what is true. Pain exists. Failure sometimes follows, and discomfort is a natural companion to growth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Those words are not consolation. They are a manual. There is a gap between what happens to you and how you respond. Your why lives in that gap. Finding it narrows the gap and gives the next step shape. This chapter gives practical directions to identify that why, anchor it in daily habits, and use it as a compass when doubt grows loud. First, uncover the source. Purpose is rarely a single bright idea. It is a cluster of commitments, the people you care for, the pain you refuse to accept, the legacy you want to leave. Start with a simple exercise. Take a sheet of paper and answer 5 questions, 1 per page, handwritten. 1. Who matters most to you and why? 2. What problem do you refuse to tolerate in your life or in the world? 3. What work makes the hours disappear for you? 4. Where do people look to you for steadiness? 5. If success were guaranteed, what would you attempt tomorrow? Don't edit, write raw answers, cross nothing out. When answers appear, patterns emerge. That pattern is the map to your why. Next, compress the map into a sentence you can hold under pressure. A purpose statement should be brief and direct. No buzzwords, no cliches. Examples: create honest work that helps working parents afford time with their kids, or design tools that make learning accessible for anyone. A strong why has 3 qualities. It is specific, it connects to other people or a value beyond personal gain, and it is framed as action. Put that sentence where the mind will meet it at daybreak and nightfall, on a sticky note on the mirror, as a phone lock screen, or written in the first line of your morning journal. Repetition does not make the why true. It trains the nervous system to move in the direction of meaning when impulses whisper otherwise. Cut the why into tasks that feel near. Parkinson's law teaches that work expands to the time allotted. Use that. Allocate 15 to 30-minute time blocks directly tied to your why. If the why is build tools to help learners, then today's block might be draft 1 lesson outline. If the why is support my family's future, a block might be call 1 potential client. Small, non-ambiguous actions remove the tyranny of vague goals and make resistance manageable. Action reduces dread. Dread feeds paralysis. Stoicism offers 2 practices that turn the why into armor. The first is negative visualization. Imagine losing the thing you are striving to protect, the job, the relationship, the health. This is not pessimism, it is clarifying gratitude that sharpens priorities. When the worst case is pictured, the true value of the pursuit becomes obvious. The second practice is voluntary discomfort, a controlled, temporary choice to suffer in small doses. Waking earlier, skipping comfort food, doing a cold shower, these micro-resets train willpower and make the cost of giving up feel heavier than the cost of continuing. Language matters. Replace I should or I have to with I choose to. Responsibility shifts from external pressure to internal agency. I choose to write for 30 minutes carries more dignity than duty framed as an obligation. That dignity becomes the muscle memory of discipline. Use implementation intentions to make choices automatic. If I feel the urge to skip work, then I will open my draft and type for 5 minutes. Small agreements between you and your future self are surprisingly effective. Make the why visible, not abstract. Create an evidence box, physical or digital. Add a handwritten letter from someone you helped. A photo of a moment that mattered. Metrics that show incremental progress. A printed note of your purpose sentence. When doubt comes, open the box. Sensory details matter. Touch the paper, smell the ink, see the photograph. The body processes evidence. The box is a reminder anchored in reality that your efforts are not empty. Build ritual around the why. Ritual converts scattered intention into reliable habit. Start and end the day with a 60-second ritual tied to your purpose. Morning, read your why aloud, write a single sentence on the day's priority, and take one action within 10 minutes. Evening, log one small win and one lesson. That loop, intention, action, reflection, is the daily compound interest of meaningful work. Over months, small rituals align behavior to purpose more reliably than occasional bursts of motivation. Handle external critics with an inward strategy. People will question the pursuit, practicality, timing, sacrifice. Evaluate critique with a stoic filter. Is the criticism helpful data or noise? Useful feedback refines methods. Empty negativity erodes spirit. Ask 3 clarifying questions to any critique. 1. What specific change is being suggested? 2. What is the evidence supporting it? 3. How does it connect to my why? When critique fails those tests, set it aside. Protect attention. Time is finite. Attention is the currency of purpose. Create accountability that extends beyond willpower. Choose one person who understands and respects the why, not necessarily a cheerleader, but someone honest. Make a simple pact, a weekly check-in of no more than 10 minutes, where progress is reported and obstacles named. Public commitments increase follow-through. If that feels too vulnerable, commit to a small donation to a cause you dislike when goals are missed. Loss aversion is powerful. The point is not shame. The point is externalizing consequence so that the internal fog lifts. When exhaustion is acute, use permission as a tool, not an exit strategy. Permission is legitimate rest in service of long-term sustainability. Distinguish between rest and surrender. Rest recharges with a plan to return. Surrender rewires the default toward quitting. Use a 72-hour rule. If the urge to quit persists beyond 3 days, then take a full day to rest and a second to audit the reasons. If after the audit, the why still feels misaligned, pivot with intention. Purpose sometimes evolves. Quitting without analysis is damage. Pivoting with integrity is wisdom. Measure progress in processes, not only outcomes. The Pareto principle 80-20 suggests a minority of actions produce the majority of results. Identify the 2 activities that most serve the why and perform them with consistency. Track effort, not emotion. A daily log that notes time invested and task completed will quickly reveal patterns. Reward the process. When a habit is observed and praised, neural pathways strengthen. Praise must be specific. 30 minutes of focused writing completed beats vague self-talk like good job. Finally, cultivate a sense of service. Purpose that serves others expands beyond ego and provides an immune system against self-doubt. If the why includes helping a specific person or group, keep a sensory reminder of them during work. A photo, a recorded voice note, a saved email, presence of the served party transforms effort into devotion. Service reframes sacrifice into offering, and offering carries intrinsic reward that resists collapse. When the storm hits again, read this aloud. This is hard. This is necessary. This is mine. Hard acknowledgements clear the mind. Ownership brings strength. The most resilient lives are not built on unbroken morale, but on repeated choices to stand when standing is costly. Discipline tames emotion not by elimination, but by rechanneling it into action, consistent with purpose. Practical next steps to implement immediately. Write 5 pages of raw answers to the 5 discovery questions. Compress the results into a single purpose sentence. Place it where the eyes rest each morning. Define one 20-minute block today tied directly to that sentence. Perform negative visualization for 5 minutes to sharpen gratitude. Join or name an accountability partner and schedule a brief weekly check-in, and create an evidence box with one item you can touch right now. These steps are small, precise, and immediate. They convert intention into momentum. The closing truth. Purpose does not erase hardship. It orders it. Difficulty becomes fertilizer for growth when framed by a clear why. The law of cause and effect is steady. Consistent small causes compound into significant effects. When the energy to continue is absent, purpose is the match that lights a single candle. That candle does not banish the night at once, but it gives a point to navigate toward. Keep the candle near, tend it daily, and when the night seems endless, remember that direction beats speed. The why is the direction. Chapter 2. Small wins matter. Break tasks into achievable steps. When everything feels overwhelming, the mind screams at you to stop, and giving up seems like the simplest choice. The truth is that monumental goals are rarely conquered in a single leap. Even the most successful people, from Olympic athletes to world-class entrepreneurs, rely on the principle of small wins. These incremental victories are the building blocks of lasting achievement. Small wins matter because they create momentum, boost confidence, and transform mountains of tasks into manageable, conquerable steps. Every large success is really a series of tiny victories stacked one after another, and understanding this principle can change the way challenges are approached forever. The key is in breaking down what feels insurmountable into segments that are tangible and actionable. A task like write a book or launch a business is abstract and paralyzing until it is broken into measurable components. For example, writing a book can feel impossible if you only see the finished product. But if the goal is divided into draft 1 page today or outline 1 chapter tonight, progress becomes visible. Every small task completed is a mini celebration, reinforcing the belief that the end goal is achievable. Momentum doesn't come from motivation alone. It comes from repeated evidence that action produces results. Actionable practice is simple. Identify one big goal and split it into 20-minute increments. The rule is to focus entirely on completing the increment without worrying about the entirety of the task. A 20-minute period of absolute focus, done consistently, compounds faster than sporadic bursts of long, unfocused effort. Productivity expert Brian Tracy emphasizes this in his teachings, saying, "The key to success is to focus our conscious mind on things we desire, not things we fear. By focusing on manageable pieces, fear diminishes and achievement becomes inevitable." Consider a real-life example. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, recounts how he transformed his health through small wins. Instead of attempting drastic overhauls in diet and exercise that were impossible to maintain, he committed to performing a single push-up a day. One push-up may seem trivial, but it was enough to start a routine. The following day, he did 2. Over time, the habit expanded organically into a complete fitness regimen. This simple, almost laughably small step became the catalyst for massive personal transformation. The same logic applies to professional life, relationships, and personal growth. The smallest deliberate action is often the most underrated driver of lasting change. Small wins also feed the psychological principle of progress. The human brain responds powerfully to visible movement toward a goal. Each step accomplished releases a microdose of dopamine, a reward signal that reinforces behavior. That chemical encouragement is crucial when motivation wanes. If goals are perceived as unreachable, the mind's natural defense mechanism is to procrastinate or quit entirely. But when tasks are visibly conquered, the brain interprets the journey as achievable. Celebrating each step, no matter how small, is not frivolous, it is functional. Breaking tasks into achievable steps requires specificity. Ambiguous intentions like get fit or grow my business will never motivate sustained action. Clarity converts vague desire into measurable effort. For instance, instead of grow my business, define it as contact 3 potential clients today, or write 1 marketing email tonight. Instead of get fit, define it as walk 1,000 steps in the morning. Actionable, measurable goals eliminate ambiguity and create a direct path from effort to result. This specificity transforms tasks into small, clear victories that can be achieved daily. Another reason small wins matter is that they build resilience. Large projects and goals are often riddled with setbacks, uncertainty, and challenges. By focusing on incremental victories, the mind learns to tolerate discomfort while still producing results. Each small win becomes proof that adversity can be overcome. This principle works across industries. In technology startups, developers launch minimal viable products, MVPs, before building fully polished applications. The MVP is a small win that informs the next step, prevents burnout, and maintains momentum. Attempting to deliver the final product immediately often leads to failure, while incremental progress ensures learning, growth, and consistent advancement. For practical application, create a small wins journal. At the start of each day, define 3 micro-tasks that will contribute to larger goals. At the end of the day, mark what was accomplished and reflect on how each step moved you closer to your overarching vision. This practice serves 2 purposes. It tracks measurable progress and reinforces the psychological reward of achievement. The habit of recording and reviewing micro-achievements keeps motivation alive even on difficult days. Over weeks and months, these small wins compound into monumental results that feel effortless in retrospect. Small wins also shift perspective. When tasks feel too large, the mind often fixates on obstacles rather than solutions. By focusing on manageable actions, attention shifts from fear to agency. Problems are reframed as opportunities to complete the next step, rather than as unmovable barriers. Stoic philosophy teaches that control lies in response, not circumstance. Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters." Small wins are an application of that principle. They focus energy on what can be controlled, the next deliberate action, rather than wasted on immovable problems. Consistency is another critical factor amplified by small wins. Completing small tasks repeatedly ingrains habits that eventually require minimal conscious effort. Habits are the infrastructure of success. While monumental goals seem to require extraordinary effort, it is actually ordinary consistency in small steps that produces extraordinary outcomes. For example, Warren Buffett did not become a billionaire overnight. He invested methodically, studying, learning, and compounding small gains over decades. The principle is universal. Small repeated actions are invisible engines behind visible success. Equally important is acknowledging that setbacks will occur. Even the most disciplined person misses a day or fails at a micro-task. The difference lies in recovery. Returning to the next small win immediately after a slip is far more productive than waiting for motivation or feeling ready. Momentum is maintained by persistence, not perfection. The practice of small wins encourages flexibility, adaptability, and resilience, because each victory, however minor, is a step forward rather than a measure of ultimate worth. Real-world implementation requires one simple step today. Identify one area where overwhelm is preventing progress. Break it down into 3 measurable actions that can be completed within 30 minutes. Perform the first action immediately. Document the result. Then continue to the second and third. Celebrate each completion. Notice how the sense of achievement, no matter how small, shifts mindset from despair to empowerment. This single practice transforms dread into action, and action into habit. Small wins are not trivial, they are the secret infrastructure of extraordinary achievement. The world glorifies massive leaps, viral successes, and overnight transformations, but real progress is constructed quietly, step by step. By consciously breaking tasks into achievable pieces, celebrating each victory, and reinforcing forward motion, anyone can build momentum that defies obstacles. Success is less about grandiose effort and more about consistent, intelligent action applied daily. Every small win, every deliberate step, compounds into results that change life, mindset, and possibility forever. The closing truth is simple. The next step matters more than the entirety of the journey. Momentum grows from completion, not perfection. Each small win, no matter how insignificant it seems, is a building block. Approach every task with clarity, break it into achievable actions, and complete them with focus. The cumulative effect is unstoppable. Start today. Complete one micro-task. Feel the shift. Let small wins carry you farther than you ever imagined, because success does not arrive fully formed. It is constructed patiently and deliberately, one step at a time. Chapter 3. Shift perspective. Turn obstacles into growth opportunities. Obstacles are inevitable. Life does not deliver success on a silver platter, and challenges often arrive unannounced, testing patience, resolve, and focus. Yet the difference between those who stumble and those who rise lies not in circumstance but in perspective. A challenge is not an endpoint, it is a doorway. How the mind interprets obstacles determines whether they become walls that trap potential or stepping stones that expand it. Shifting perspective transforms struggle into opportunity, weakness into strength, and adversity into a teacher that prepares the mind and character for the victories that follow. The first step in shifting perspective is understanding that perception shapes reality. The mind is a lens, and what is seen through it is colored by assumptions, fears, and habits of thought. Two individuals may face identical setbacks. One will despair, the other will grow. The difference is not in the event, but in the interpretation. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. In every hardship lies a lesson, if the mind is willing to look for it. Obstacles are not enemies. They are mirrors, reflecting what needs strength, skill, or attention." Reframing adversity starts with questions. When an unexpected problem arises, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can this teach me, and how can this make me stronger?" Questions of curiosity replace questions of defeat. They open the mind to possibilities rather than closing it with self-pity. Every setback carries insight into weaknesses, strategies, and approaches that might have been overlooked. The practice of turning obstacles into growth is rooted in inquiry. Asking the right questions leads to actionable answers that directly improve capability and resilience. Practical application begins with a simple exercise, the obstacle journal. Each day, write down a challenge encountered, and then list 3 ways it could provide growth, knowledge, or skill. For instance, if an unexpected rejection occurs at work, note it and then consider what feedback is embedded here. What skill can I improve for next time? How does this build emotional endurance? Over time, the journal reveals patterns, teaches lessons that would otherwise be invisible, and rewires the brain to scan difficulties for opportunity rather than threat. This practice creates a habit of proactive thinking, where setbacks become informative rather than debilitating. Real-life examples illuminate the power of perspective. Oprah Winfrey, one of the most influential figures of our time, was fired from her first television job because she was unfit for TV. Most would have accepted the verdict and retreated. Instead, she interpreted the obstacle as feedback on how to refine her presence, her delivery, and her connection with audiences. That single shift in perspective became the foundation for decades of success, ultimately turning initial rejection into global influence. Each failure, when viewed as a lesson, compounds into an advantage that those blinded by frustration never experience. Perspective also shapes emotional response. Challenges initially provoke fear, frustration, or anger. These emotions are natural and valid, but prolonged focus on them drains energy and clouds judgment. Shifting perspective allows for emotion to exist without control. Stoic philosophy teaches that external events are neutral. Meaning is assigned by the observer. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." By accepting the emotional surge, but consciously choosing to interpret events constructively, energy is redirected from resistance to progress. Obstacles then become fuel rather than friction. Breaking down obstacles is another essential step. Large problems are often paralyzing because they appear monolithic. By deconstructing them into smaller, actionable elements, the mind sees the way forward. For example, an entrepreneur facing plummeting sales might feel helpless. Shifting perspective reframes the issue. The decline is data, not failure. The individual can analyze customer behavior, adjust marketing strategies, and implement targeted solutions. The obstacle transforms from a wall into a roadmap, guiding focused action rather than inducing panic. Clarity in decomposition converts ambiguity into strategy. Visualization is a powerful tool in this process. Imagine a challenge not as a barrier, but as a test of skill. Athletes, for example, do not view a competitor's strength as intimidating. They internalize it as an opportunity to hone technique, speed, and resilience. Similarly, visualizing obstacles as opportunities primes the brain to search for solutions instead of ruminating on impossibility. Every mental rehearsal creates neural pathways that make adaptive action easier and more natural in real-life situations. Perspective can also be enhanced by reframing language. Words carry implicit meaning and influence cognition. Replace statements like "I can't" with "I haven't yet," or "This is difficult but I will learn." Words that imply possibility rather than finality activate the brain's problem-solving networks. This linguistic adjustment fosters hope, reduces stress, and encourages creative thinking. Subtle as it may seem, the way challenges are verbally framed determines the emotional intensity and the likelihood of constructive action. Another key element is embracing discomfort as a teacher. Growth rarely comes from ease. It emerges from persistent engagement with resistance. Pain, delay, and uncertainty are all rich sources of skill and insight. Thomas Edison experienced thousands of failed attempts, before inventing the light bulb. Each attempt, though initially frustrating, provided data, understanding, and incremental mastery. Rather than viewing failure as a conclusion, it can be seen as a step in a process. Obstacles are the tuition fee of experience. They charge us only because their lessons are valuable. For practical implementation, identify one current challenge. Write it down, then intentionally create 3 potential growth opportunities hidden within it. For example, if public speaking induces anxiety, growth opportunities might include building confidence, learning audience engagement techniques, or improving vocal clarity. Commit to taking one action today that leverages the obstacle for growth. This simple shift, repeated daily, rewires thought patterns, enhances emotional resilience, and creates a forward-moving trajectory even when external circumstances appear unfavorable. Perspective also strengthens self-trust. When obstacles are approached with curiosity and action, confidence grows. The mind begins to rely on its own judgment, creativity, and problem-solving capacity rather than external validation. This internal reliability is far more durable than luck, circumstance, or approval. People who master perspective experience freedom. Their response, not the obstacle, determines outcomes. They develop a habit of interpreting setbacks as invitations to innovate, persist, and evolve. Finally, the principle of compounding insight ensures long-term transformation. Each obstacle approached with growth in mind adds a layer of skill, patience, and understanding. Over months and years, the cumulative effect produces resilience, creativity, and wisdom far beyond what isolated victories can generate. Life becomes less about avoiding difficulty and more about extracting value from every experience. Obstacles cease to be interruptions. They become integral instruments in a purposeful journey. The closing truth is simple yet profound. Challenges are inevitable, but suffering is optional. How an obstacle is perceived determines whether it shrinks the spirit or expands it. Shift perspective, and resistance becomes a guide. Fear becomes information, and setbacks become accelerators. Practice the daily habit of identifying growth within every challenge. Take deliberate action to extract lessons and document insights. The result is not only problem-solving ability but a mindset that turns adversity into opportunity repeatedly, reliably, and powerfully. Perspective is the key that transforms struggle into mastery, and mastery lies within reach of anyone willing to view obstacles as teachers rather than threats. Chapter 4. Build resilience. Strengthen mind through daily challenges. Resilience is not a trait reserved for the chosen few. It is a skill honed through deliberate effort, practiced every day in small, tangible ways. Life is unpredictable, and challenges do not follow a convenient schedule. They appear in sudden failures, unexpected responsibilities, or emotional upheavals. Strengthening the mind through daily challenges is not about avoiding hardship. It is about learning to bend without breaking, to recover without resentment, and to use adversity as fuel rather than a chain. Every experience, when approached intentionally, becomes a rehearsal for resilience, training the mind to respond with composure, clarity, and courage even under pressure. The process begins with acknowledgement. A resilient mind does not pretend obstacles do not exist. It names them, studies them, and considers their impact without panic or dramatization. Awareness transforms fear into analysis. Recognizing the difficulty without exaggerating it allows the mind to prepare a measured response. The Stoics referred to this as premeditation malorum, the anticipation of challenges to reduce their emotional shock. By visualizing potential hardships and rehearsing reactions, the mind creates preparedness, reducing vulnerability to panic or impulsive decisions. Resilience grows when preparation intersects with experience, building confidence in one's capacity to endure. Daily challenges serve as intentional micro-laboratories for resilience. Purposeful discomfort trains the mind to navigate uncertainty. This could be as simple as waking 30 minutes earlier to tackle a difficult task, engaging in physical training that pushes limits, or deliberately entering situations that provoke discomfort but are not harmful. Each encounter with controlled difficulty strengthens the neural pathways associated with self-discipline, stress tolerance, and problem-solving. The cumulative effect is profound. Small, repeated challenges condition the mind to face major life events with composure, as prior experience has proven the capacity to endure. Practical application is straightforward and requires consistent execution. Create a daily challenge list with 3 items that stretch capability or provoke minor discomfort. For example, initiate a difficult conversation with honesty, complete a task you have been procrastinating on, or engage in a physical effort beyond your comfort level. The purpose is not immediate mastery, but consistent engagement. Completing challenges that are slightly beyond current skill or patience creates a reliable feedback loop. Action reinforces capability, and capability reinforces confidence. Real-life examples illustrate the potency of resilience cultivated through daily effort. Consider J.K. Rowling, who faced repeated rejection before publishing the Harry Potter series. Each rejection could have been a blow that stopped progress, but she treated them as a test of perseverance, an opportunity to refine her manuscript and strengthen resolve. Those incremental mental victories, the choice to continue writing, to submit again, to believe despite discouragement, culminated in extraordinary success. Each daily act of persistence built resilience, demonstrating how small, repeated efforts forge the foundation for monumental achievements. Resilience also depends on the cultivation of perspective. The mind often interprets challenges as threats rather than opportunities for growth. By reframing setbacks as exercises in skill development, problem solving and emotional control, stress becomes a teacher rather than a prison. Every obstacle holds a lesson, and the resilient mind actively seeks it. This perspective allows setbacks to energize rather than paralyze. It transforms the mental narrative from "I am failing" to "I am learning," which is critical because belief about one's capacity directly influences action and endurance. Language and internal dialogue are essential tools in resilience building. Replace self-defeating thoughts like "I can't handle this" with statements that reinforce capability, such as "I can handle this step by step," or "This challenge is temporary and I will grow from it." Words shape neural patterns. Consistent use of empowering language rewires the brain for confidence, persistence, and composure. The mind begins to interpret stress not as insurmountable, but as an opportunity for growth, which drastically alters physiological and emotional responses. Another critical aspect is emotional regulation. Daily challenges produce stress, frustration, and doubt, all of which test endurance. A resilient mind does not seek to eliminate these emotions, but to channel them constructively. Techniques such as controlled breathing, brief meditation, or focused reflection provide mental space to respond rather than react. By practicing this regulation consistently, the mind becomes trained to maintain clarity, even in high-pressure situations, enabling solutions and progress where others succumb to emotional overwhelm. Physical challenges amplify mental resilience. Engaging the body in controlled stress through exercise, cold exposure, or disciplined routines trains the nervous system to handle discomfort. The feedback from physical endurance transfers to mental endurance. Athletes often describe moments of extreme fatigue, where the mind pushes the body beyond perceived limits. These experiences demonstrate that capacity is often greater than believed, and that repeated exposure to difficulty strengthens belief in personal capability. The mind internalizes patterns of endurance, which then influence broader life challenges. Practical implementation requires immediate action. Select one activity today that feels slightly uncomfortable or challenging and commit to completing it fully. Document the experience. Document the experience. What emotions arose, how the body and mind responded, and what lessons can be extracted. This reflective practice turns ordinary experience into a laboratory for growth. Each completed challenge reinforces the principle that discomfort does not equal defeat. It signals opportunity for strengthening. Over time, resilience becomes habitual, embedded in thought, emotion, and behavior. Resilience is amplified by gratitude for the process. Acknowledging that every challenge faced is an opportunity to grow diminishes resistance and fosters motivation. The mind begins to welcome difficulty as a teacher rather than fear it as a threat. This mindset does not create immunity to hardship, but equips the individual to endure with composure, focus, and determination. Gratitude converts struggle into fuel for advancement, creating a virtuous cycle of challenge, learning, and growth. Consistency is key. Resilience is not built in moments of crisis. It is constructed through persistent engagement with daily challenges. Small, deliberate acts of mental and physical effort compound over time, producing an inner strength that is reliable, flexible, and enduring. Habits of reflection, intentional discomfort, and proactive engagement establish a foundation that allows for measured response when life's largest challenges appear. Resilience is cultivated, not inherited, and its effects are cumulative and transformative. Closing with a concrete practice reinforces the lesson. For the next 7 days, intentionally engage in one activity each day that pushes comfort limits, whether mental, emotional, or physical. Document each encounter, noting emotions, strategies used, and insights gained. Reflect nightly on progress and adjust challenges to remain slightly beyond current abilities. By the end of the week, the mind will have experienced repeated opportunities for growth, each contributing incrementally to strengthened resilience. This practice builds confidence, prepares for adversity, and instills a mindset where challenges are no longer obstacles, but instruments of personal evolution. The truth is simple. Life will demand strength, patience, and endurance. Resilience ensures that those demands are met, not with despair, but with competence and courage. By confronting small daily challenges, regulating emotion, seeking lessons in adversity, and consistently pushing limits, the mind becomes impervious to discouragement. Strength is forged through action, clarity, and reflection. Each day that intentional effort is applied, the foundation for mastery, persistence, and success grows. Resilience is not a concept, it is lived experience, cultivated relentlessly and proven through every trial overcome. Chapter 5. Mindful Pause. Use reflection to regain clarity. Life often moves at a relentless pace. Every day is filled with decisions, tasks, and pressures that pull attention in multiple directions. In the chaos, clarity becomes scarce. The mind becomes cluttered, decisions feel heavy, and focus diminishes. One of the most powerful tools to regain control and perspective is the mindful pause. A deliberate moment to step back, observe, and reflect. It is not idle time. It is active mental engagement that restores clarity, strengthens judgment, and aligns action with intention. Reflection, when practiced consistently, transforms reaction into choice and confusion into insight. The first step in mastering the mindful pause is recognition. Recognizing when the mind is overloaded or reactive is essential. Emotions often signal the need for pause, Irritability, distraction, indecision, or a sense of overwhelm indicates that the brain is operating in autopilot. Awareness of these signals is the gateway to conscious intervention. Once recognized, a pause allows the mind to detach from immediate stimuli and observe patterns, assumptions, and impulses. This moment of detachment creates space for insight rather than impulsive reaction. Reflection is not about judgment or criticism. It is observation and interpretation. The goal is to identify what is working, what is misaligned, and where energy should be directed. Leonardo da Vinci practiced reflection daily, often reviewing his work, sketches, and notes to determine what required refinement. Reflection allowed him to innovate consistently because he understood the interplay between effort, outcome, and improvement. In contemporary life, such practice sharpens decision-making and ensures that energy is invested in actions that produce meaningful results, rather than wasted in distraction. Practical implementation begins with a simple exercise, the 3-question pause. Take 5 to 10 minutes and answer 3 questions in writing. What am I doing that serves my highest goals? What is consuming my energy unnecessarily? And what is the next best action I can take with clarity and purpose? Writing down answers externalizes thought, prevents rumination, and creates actionable insight. Over time, this practice cultivates a mental habit of stepping back, analyzing context, and choosing deliberate responses rather than reacting impulsively to circumstance. Real-life examples demonstrate the transformative effect of reflection. Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, emphasizes introspection as a cornerstone of leadership. When faced with strategic crossroads, Nadella reportedly takes deliberate time to step away from meetings and operational noise, reflecting deeply on long-term goals, company culture, and customer impact. This practice allows decisions to be aligned with broader purpose rather than short-term pressure. Reflection does not slow progress, it amplifies it by ensuring that every action is meaningful and informed. The mindful pause also recalibrates emotions. Emotional turbulence clouds judgment, making challenges appear larger than they are. A pause enables emotional regulation by creating a psychological buffer between stimulus and response. The mind observes the emotion without being dominated by it. This capacity to witness emotion rather than react impulsively strengthens self-control, reduces regret, and enhances the quality of decisions. Neuroscience confirms that reflection activates the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for executive function, helping rational thought prevail over impulsive reaction. Clarity emerges when reflection is structured. Random rumination often increases confusion rather than reducing it. Using prompts or structured questions focuses the mind on specific insights rather than wandering aimlessly. Another method is the evening review, where the day is analyzed for what went well, what could have been improved, and lessons learned. This process encourages accountability to oneself, reinforces positive habits, and illuminates patterns that may otherwise go unnoticed. Structure converts reflection into growth rather than a passive mental exercise. Perspective expands when reflection includes multiple lenses. Consider the challenge from emotional, practical, and long-term strategic viewpoints. By observing how an obstacle affects relationships, personal goals, and overarching purpose simultaneously, the mind sees the full context. This multidimensional approach prevents overreaction to transient issues and allows prioritization based on impact rather than urgency. Reflection without perspective is shallow. Perspective without reflection is reactive. The combination produces wisdom and informed action. The mindful pause also strengthens creativity. When the mind is constantly occupied, creative insight is suppressed. Reflection provides a mental incubator for ideas, solutions, and innovation. Steve Jobs famously emphasized the importance of stepping back from daily tasks to allow insight to emerge, often taking walks or sitting in solitude to consider product design, strategy, and customer experience. These deliberate pauses contributed directly to breakthrough innovations. Creativity thrives when the mind is uncluttered, focused, and engaged in deep reflection rather than scattered reaction. A practical application is immediate. Schedule 2 mindful pauses today, one in the morning and one in the evening. During the morning pause, focus on intentions, priorities, and potential obstacles for the day. During the evening pause, reflect on successes, missteps, and lessons learned. Record insights in a notebook or digital document. This dual practice anchors daily life in awareness, ensures alignment with purpose, and trains the mind to view challenges as manageable rather than overwhelming. Language and internal dialogue influence the effectiveness of reflection. Avoid self-criticism and focus on constructive inquiry. Replace "I failed" with "What can I learn from this?" or "How can I improve for the next opportunity?" Reflection is most powerful when curiosity drives it, rather than guilt or fear. This mindset fosters resilience, encourages problem-solving, and strengthens confidence. A reflective mind understands setbacks are data points, not verdicts on personal worth or ability. Reflection also improves decision-making under pressure. In the heat of stress, the mind often defaults to habitual responses or short-term fixes. Regular practice of mindful pauses builds the mental muscle to step back, analyze context, and act with deliberate choice. Over time, decisions are increasingly informed by insight rather than impulse. Leaders, creatives, and high performers across disciplines rely on this ability to consistently make rational, impactful choices under pressure, demonstrating that reflection is not passive, it is strategic preparation for action. Daily reflection cultivates gratitude alongside clarity. Observing what is functioning, acknowledging personal effort, and recognizing small victories reinforces positive thinking. Gratitude paired with insight reduces anxiety, enhances resilience, and provides motivation to continue pursuing goals. Reflection becomes a lens through which life's challenges are understood and appreciated rather than feared. A real-world example of structured reflection comes from professional athletes. Elite competitors review performance footage daily, noting strengths, weaknesses, and actionable adjustments. This is not about judgment, but understanding cause and effect. By analyzing outcomes, identifying patterns, and planning incremental improvements, athletes gain precision, efficiency, and confidence. Reflection transforms effort into learning and learning into mastery. Closing practice for today. Dedicate 10 minutes to a focused pause. Sit quietly, breathe deeply, and answer 3 questions. What was accomplished? What requires adjustment? And what is the immediate next action that aligns with purpose? Record your answers. Commit to applying at least one insight from this reflection in the next task. Over weeks, this habit sharpens mental clarity, enhances emotional regulation, and transforms overwhelming complexity into actionable, purpose-driven steps. The mindful pause is not a luxury, it is essential. Life accelerates, distractions multiply, and clarity becomes rare. Reflection provides control, perspective, and wisdom. By intentionally stepping back, asking the right questions, observing without judgment, and documenting insights, the mind strengthens its capacity to navigate challenges. This practice converts confusion into understanding, reaction into choice, and busyness into deliberate progress. Regular reflection builds a life of intention, clarity, and strategic action, creating space for success even in the midst of chaos. Chapter 6. Support Systems. Surround yourself with positive people. The people you surround yourself with shape your mindset, your energy, and your trajectory. Every conversation, every interaction subtly influences beliefs, motivation, and resilience. Negative, draining individuals can sap energy, cloud judgment, and diminish ambition, while positive, growth-oriented people act as catalysts, amplifying potential and fueling progress. Success rarely happens in isolation. It is built on networks of encouragement, shared wisdom, and honest feedback. The quality of your support system is a direct reflection of how high you can rise, how far you can push, and how consistently you can maintain momentum when challenges arise. Choosing the right support system begins with intentional awareness. Observe how interactions make you feel. Do conversations leave you energized, inspired, and focused, or drained, frustrated, and doubtful? Emotional residue is telling. Positive influences do not merely flatter. They challenge, encourage, and expand perspective while reinforcing belief in potential. Negative influences, even subtly, instill hesitation, self-doubt, and distraction. Recognizing the difference is the first step toward constructing a network that serves growth rather than hinders it. Connection with like-minded individuals amplifies consistency and accountability. When pursuing ambitious goals, isolation magnifies self-doubt. A circle of individuals who share drive, discipline, or vision establishes a built-in feedback loop. Achievements are celebrated, setbacks analyzed constructively, and accountability becomes a natural expectation rather than external pressure. High-performing entrepreneurs, athletes, and creators leverage peer groups to maintain focus and cultivate habits. Elon Musk attributes much of his perseverance to collaboration with teams who share similar intensity and curiosity. The synergy created by alignment multiplies results beyond what an individual could achieve alone. Practical implementation begins with evaluating existing relationships. Identify 5 people in daily life who influence mood, energy, or behavior significantly. Categorize each as either supportive, neutral, or draining. Recognize that neutrality is acceptable but not empowering. Supportive individuals elevate thought, perspective, and action. Draining influences may need boundaries or reduced exposure. This exercise clarifies where attention, time, and energy are invested and provides a foundation for cultivating a network aligned with growth objectives. Real-life examples show the power of positive networks. Serena Williams, one of the most accomplished athletes of all time, credits her inner circle family, coaches, and mentors for sustaining resilience and focus. During periods of injury, personal challenge, or competitive stress, her team provided honest feedback, motivation, and emotional grounding. The difference between recovery and stagnation was not only talent, but consistent engagement with individuals committed to her long-term success. Support systems provide not just encouragement, but strategic guidance, insight, and perspective that reinforce perseverance. Positive people also model mindset and behavior. Humans learn by observation. The habits, language, and energy of those around us influence unconscious patterns. Individuals who demonstrate discipline, optimism, and solution-oriented thinking teach resilience and consistency simply through presence. Conversely, constant exposure to pessimism, blame, or passivity creates cognitive and emotional drift. This subtle mimicry explains why high achievers are often part of communities that reflect their values, priorities, and ambitions. Surrounding yourself with high-quality influences accelerates growth through observational learning, reinforcement, and inspiration. Creating a culture of mutual accountability strengthens progress. Support systems thrive when each member actively participates in goal alignment, honest feedback, and shared encouragement. Accountability partners, mastermind groups, or peer mentors ensure that vision is maintained during times of distraction, doubt, or difficulty. The principle is simple: shared commitment produces measurable momentum, and collaborative reinforcement embeds resilience and focus into daily practice. This structure transforms ambition from wishful thinking into consistent action. Practical daily practice is immediate. Identify one individual today who uplifts, challenges, or motivates you, and schedule a conversation or check-in. Discuss a goal, share a challenge, or ask for constructive input. Document insights gained from the interaction and apply at least one recommendation immediately. Repetition of this practice builds a supportive pattern, strengthens relationships, and embeds external accountability into personal growth. Each positive interaction compounds motivation, perspective, and clarity, reinforcing the value of a strong network. Support systems also provide perspective during stress. When confronting uncertainty, obstacles, or failure, the mind often overemphasizes negatives. A network of grounded, experienced, or insightful individuals serves as a mirror, reflecting reality with clarity rather than distortion. They help differentiate between temporary setbacks and systemic issues, prioritize focus, and provide reassurance without false comfort. Perspective from trusted sources is a stabilizer for decision-making and emotional regulation, allowing resilience to persist under pressure. Language and reinforcement within a support system are powerful. Positive communication is explicit and deliberate. Compliments, constructive critique, encouragement, and recognition are not superficial. They are signals to the brain that effort is valued and worthwhile. Human cognition responds to reinforcement. Praise for specific behavior, guidance on improvement, or acknowledgement of progress strengthens neural patterns associated with motivation, persistence, and self-efficacy. The right support system generates momentum not only externally but internally, shaping self-belief and confidence over time. Strategic expansion of support networks is critical. Identify communities, groups, or associations aligned with goals or values. Networking with individuals who share similar ambitions, principles, or work ethic multiplies opportunity. Mentorship, mastermind groups, or educational communities provide insight, resources, and perspective that accelerate learning curves. By intentionally cultivating environments rich in positive influence, the mind and behavior are optimized for performance, innovation, and resilience. Boundaries are equally essential. Not all exposure is beneficial. Interactions that consistently induce negativity, distraction, or regression must be managed or minimized. Protecting attention, time, and energy is not selfish, it is tactical. Just as a physical environment influences productivity, emotional and social environments shape mindset. Boundaries ensure that effort is reinforced rather than diluted, preserving focus for meaningful, growth-oriented interactions. Support systems also foster courage. Attempting new challenges often evokes fear, doubt, or hesitation. Positive, invested individuals normalize risk-taking, provide encouragement, and model calculated boldness. Their presence reduces isolation in the face of difficulty and reinforces the belief that potential is worth pursuing. The courage to act often emerges not solely from internal drive, but from the reassurance and accountability provided by a trusted circle. Real-world application demonstrates this vividly. In business, Richard Branson emphasizes that his success relies on the strength of his teams and advisors. He surrounds himself with people whose skills complement his own and who are willing to challenge him constructively. Each decision benefits from diverse input, and each failure is mitigated through shared wisdom. The support system multiplies capability, reduces risk, and amplifies execution speed. Success is not the product of solitary brilliance. It is the product of a network aligned in focus, energy, and insight. Closing practice for today. Select 2 individuals whose influence you value and arrange a deliberate interaction this week. Share a goal, request feedback, or discuss a challenge you are facing. During the conversation, actively listen, note insights, and identify one actionable step to implement immediately. Over time, consistently engaging with supportive individuals compounds motivation, clarity, and strategic advantage. The quality of the people around you determines how high you can climb and how resiliently you respond to setbacks. Positive support systems amplify effort, model constructive behavior, provide perspective, and enforce accountability. They create momentum when motivation falters and inspiration when energy wanes. By carefully choosing who is allowed into daily mental and emotional space, boundaries reinforced, and meaningful interaction prioritized, individuals cultivate an ecosystem where growth, clarity, and resilience flourish. The trajectory of success is inseparable from the people who shape, challenge, and sustain it. Surround yourself wisely, nurture these relationships, and watch both capability and confidence expand exponentially. Chapter 7. Self-compassion. Celebrate effort, not perfection. Perfection is a mirage that convinces the mind to measure worth against impossible standards. The pursuit of flawless outcomes often leads to frustration, procrastination, and self-criticism. The mind becomes trapped in judgment rather than progress. Self-compassion is the antidote. It is the deliberate practice of treating oneself with the same kindness, patience, and understanding that would be extended to a friend. By celebrating effort rather than fixating on perfection, individuals create an environment where growth, resilience, and sustained motivation flourish. Self-compassion transforms challenges from threats to opportunities, mistakes into lessons, and effort into achievement. The foundation of self-compassion begins with awareness. Observe the internal dialogue, particularly in moments of difficulty, failure, or challenge. How does the mind respond when expectations are not met? Harsh criticism, self-blame, or shame are indicators that self-compassion is absent. Awareness does not mean indulgence or avoidance of responsibility. It is recognition that the mind reacts instinctively and that deliberate intervention is possible. The goal is to shift from punitive self-talk to constructive support. This shift redefines the relationship between effort, result, and self-worth. Psychologists have consistently shown that self-compassion enhances resilience and performance. People who treat themselves with understanding are more likely to recover from setbacks quickly, maintain motivation, and embrace challenges without fear of failure. Compassion toward oneself activates neural pathways associated with reward, calm, and focus, while self-criticism triggers stress, distraction, and emotional drain. The mind functions best when effort is acknowledged and mistakes are framed as temporary, learnable, and correctable rather than definitive judgments on character or ability. Practical application begins with a simple, daily exercise, the effort reflection. At the end of each day, identify 3 specific actions where effort was applied, regardless of outcome. Write them down, and for each, note why the effort itself is valuable. For instance, submitting a report even with uncertainty, initiating a challenging conversation, or attempting a skill that is not yet mastered. The focus is on process, engagement, and perseverance, rather than flawless execution. This practice gradually trains the mind to value the energy and intention behind actions. Real-life examples demonstrate the transformative power of self-compassion. Michael Jordan, widely regarded as the greatest basketball player of all time, famously stated, I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. Jordan's recognition that failure and mistakes were integral to learning and improvement highlights the essence of celebrating effort. Each missed shot, lost game, or setback was an opportunity to apply lessons, refine technique, and grow stronger. The emphasis was not on the perfection of performance, but on consistent commitment and willingness to engage fully in the process. Self-compassion also reduces the paralysis that stems from fear of judgment. When the mind internalizes harsh standards, hesitation often overrides action. Perfectionism fosters avoidance, whereas self-compassion creates a safe internal environment for experimentation, risk-taking, and growth. By valuing effort over outcome, the individual is free to pursue challenges without the fear of failure becoming immobilizing. This mindset fosters creativity, innovation, and persistent engagement with ambitious goals. Language and internal dialogue play a critical role in cultivating self-compassion. Replace "I failed" with "I tried and learned," or "this was a step in the process." Words shape thought and emotion, consciously framing experiences around effort and growth.